I think of Joe Paterno, right, as somebody who played football and like, I was into music and all that stuff too, but like, so into football, and a guy like Joe Paterno, you just revere. And again, we talk about this stuff like, as a child, you think like a child. As a man, you put away childish things and all that. But as a child, as somebody, when you hear the fight song and you see this guy running out and Joe Pa in the blue and white uniforms and the wins and just everything that they stand for as something that helps you grow into a man, right? And then the whole time he's turning his back, allegedly, or whatever, on these disgusting things happening to these kids. I mean, it's so foul that's hard to process.
Yeah.
It's just really sad. But then, okay, and Dave Chappelle made this joke too, right? But like, how do you balance all the good things he did in his life versus these horrible things, or an act of omission, maybe in his case, that he did? Can you balance it? I've always been taught that, one bad decision like that, which is actually more than one, but whatever, will wipe out pretty much every good thing that you've done.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the case.
I mean, that's the case for everybody.
But Michael Jackson's music isn't going away, and we don't know what he did or didn't do. But Bill Cosby, that show is not going away. R. Kelly's music is not going away. Tiger's records aren't being, you know what I mean? Like, it just has to be. It can never be mentioned without mentioning everything else. Now
they're so intertwined.
But and maybe this is not a good question, or maybe this is not sensitive, but how do we, is there some, not,
you need to separate it,
not forgiveness, but like, how do you look at the man as a total like obviously an imperfect person? How do you come to grips with, maybe we made them too perfect in the first place? You know what I mean?
So I think that there's got to be a separation. Like, if you did something, that's cool. You're known for your work on that, and that work was exemplary. But like, I don't think that we always need to associate the person with the work performed.
Right.
I mean, we should give attribution when needed,
right.
But like, we can't as a society, but we should separate it.
Right. And I think we've talked about this off camera, but that's one of the biggest things that I learned in sports, was certain people were tremendously talented, gifted, and not even just talent, but tremendous executors at certain tasks, right? Whether it was running a football or catching or throwing it or whatever. They were amazing, right? But that did not necessarily make them the type of person that you would want your kids around, or that you would want to look up to, or whatever. But it's a better story to have them like that. But it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best people are the best people you would want your kids and all that stuff around are not that good. And sometimes they are. Sometimes it's both.
No, you hope for
one doesn't equate to the
exactly.
The other.
Like, you hope for the best, so you can say like, "Hey kids, this guy did something great. For sure, follow his steps." But sometimes they do something that outside of what they do, outside of the thing that they're known for, that you can't.
Maybe you hit it on the head exactly. Like when if you have a kid and you're like, hey, you want to listen to music? Listen to Michael Jackson or whatever. Doesn't mean you want to live like him.
Yeah.
But
like I think it's sort of, actually, this actually brings up a lot of things for in terms of getting kids the right information. I feel like a lot of parents, especially nowadays, since there's so much access to the internet and media, that they're like kind of passive parents. They let the TV, they let the media and everything kind of educate their kids. And then when something goes wrong, they blame that media. Like they blame gaming, they blame YouTube, they blame all these things.
Right.
They blame Netflix.
Right.
But really, you needed to be more of an active parent and tell them how to interpret these things, how to approach them, what the purpose of this was, and what to feel about it. Communicate with them and be like, hey, you just watched 13 Reasons Why. I know that it seems like you may think that this seems glamorous, but let me talk to you about the themes here. Let me talk to you about like all of these themes and topics that are being brought up. And I want to have a conversation with you so I understand how you're feeling about this. I get really mad when parents just say like, oh, my kid was playing this game or watched this movie and then this thing happened and it's all its fault. Let's kill it all. Let's sue them. And I'm like, dude, like you just literally didn't communicate with your kids. And that's the most important thing about about being a parent.
Right. Well, laziness rears its head in every activity, and parenting is no different, right? Like, you can't blame TV or music or something if your kid does something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, maybe your kid has some issues, right? Like maybe that's a possibility. Maybe you could have done better. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different things that go into it, but yeah, I mean that's a whole nother topic. Like in today's day and age, how do you is it better to shield kids from stuff? Is it even possible, or is it better? You're saying no, so you think it's better just to let them
I think at one point
teach them, I guess.
I think one point in our life before the internet and all the access to internet or into information, it was definitely feasible to shield your kids. And we've had friends that are shielded, not maybe mutual, but within our progression that were more shielded, more sheltered.
I was pretty sheltered, I guess.
Yeah, but I feel like there were some instances where like kids couldn't do like have Cheetos or something like that.
Yeah.
Like really sheltered people. And like I think it was a safe bet before, but now it's like they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna read something, they're going to experience something when you're not around. And the best way to prevent that or have them make the right decisions is have that conversation. And I feel like that's like the most important thing for parents, because you will never understand. Like I've talked to my MDs about like, hey man, like I think it'd be really hard to be a kid right now. Like it'd be hard for me to understand like what they're going through, like what their communications are with the new technology and like what's going on. And he's like, man, like we figure it out as you go along, but it's like it's the same thing. It comes down to communication, because it's educating them to the fact of like things may arise and this is how you should approach it, and
right.
giving them the tools that will help them make the correct decisions.
Right. I mean, and I feel kind of uneasy talking about being a parent because I don't have any experience doing it. I do have experience with a great mom. Shout out Mama Carter. But
you've taught.
I did teach, and actually the crazy thing about teaching, I don't know if I told you this, but I was kind of nervous or scared to teach because I was like, shoot, I was like 22 or something like that. And I'm like, man, I don't have kids like that are looking up to me or whatever. But it came so easy. It came so natural because I actually did have things to teach them. And so I hope that being a parent will be like that. And actually, people have told me, some of my old bosses and stuff, I remember they told me it just comes natural. It's just like, I don't know, like riding a bike or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so easy. But because we do have stuff to teach, but I'm trying to remember what we were just saying
about communication and parenting tactics.
Oh yeah, I was just saying I feel a little bit uneasy about it. Yeah, shoot, I'm trying to remember. But yeah, communication. I forgot what I was gonna say.
I mean, from my side, like my parents gave me pretty free range. Like,
oh yeah.
So my sister, she did a lot of stuff, and I mean, not a lot of crazy stuff, but like she basically paved the way. She was older, so she paved the way. So like they basically learned how to parent through from my sister, and then from me, I learned from watching my sister that I just need to be really open to my parents. Just talk to them, tell them about everything. but they like, it's basically like I earned my trust through them, so they gave me some leeway. But I think they've also been really good about telling me about like things in the news, things that happened at our school, happened in our community, and like say like really talk about like how I felt about it, because I think you'll never know how that kid feels by just like, you know, like controlling their media and controlling their consumption of things, because they might like, even if it's like the most simple thing, they might watch Lion King, but they might interpret it a completely different way. But the only way that you know what's going through their head is if you talk to them and be like, hey, how did you feel about that, or like what's this making you feel like with this tragedy or whatever.
Communication is key. And I remember what I was going to say. I think I agree with you in that my parent, what I believe will be my parenting style, is trying to give them the tools to address any situation that might come up. Because what I've learned about life is like, you don't know what's coming, and what the issue is today, or what the problems may be today. Those problems may be different tomorrow, or they will be different. And not may, they will be different. But okay, do they have the confidence to address difficult things, right? You know, the mental and emotional stamina to do that, because that's something, right? So I definitely believe in building your kids up where they believe that they can take on the challenges of the world. And then do they have the tools to do it as well? And those tools change, but it might just be decision making, logic, empathy, morals, all these different type of things, and self introspection, all those type of things, where my belief is that they should be prepared to do things even if I'm not there, right? And I think it's a combination of, I think there's so much into it, but I think the best teachers, you look up to them. If you look up to your mom or dad and you respect them and you love them and you care for them, and you believe in them, you're likely to model their actions. And so I think if you are that type of example, they're more likely, not all the time, because, you know, life has, you know, its ups and downs, where people are we're all human beings. We're going to try to do things our own way, most likely. So most personalities. But at some point, they're going to be like, you know what she said, what he said, that wasn't all bad. Like, maybe I should try things that way, or maybe I'll remember how he handled that situation, or whatever. Because I see myself doing some of that. So I think there's so many little things. But I think, going back to your original point, like, you can't be lazy about it. If you're letting TV, if you're letting media raise your kids, you got an issue. Your kid.
Vafankuro.
Yeah. What's that mean?
Go fuck yourself.
Like, you got an issue. I mean, I look at parenting as a huge responsibility. So if I'm not ready to go all in, I'm not ready for it.
For sure.
That's how I look at it.
But back to that whole thing about like how they blame media. There was actually, I want to bring this one study that kind of supports my it's like I feel like games especially get a big bad rap because they're violent and whatever. However, they do make you go through sort of decision making processes, and like they have character development, all that stuff. Sometimes. And I think video games are really good, especially if they're role playing. Like, again, like fighters, shooters, they don't have as much depth on the story, but if your game has a story on it, generally there's a main character, a protagonist that has to deal with adversity, and they overcome it through their decisions, through their actions, through their ways they make allies. So they've actually shown that gamers that play role-playing games are more empathetic than non-gamers, because they've been able to experience decision making without actually enacting it. So they see that this character evolves or devolves based on certain actions. And generally there are certain games that are an exception, but most role-playing games kind of say like the positive actions lead to like more friends, more allies, and whatever. And then like the darkness is you get more power, but you're alone. And, you know, like the world
So
crumbles around.
they kind of imitate life in that sense.
Yeah, like as much as dark as a game can be, I think that they generally kind of spin it positively.
Right. I mean, I didn't play those type of role playing games as much as you did, but I don't have a problem with my kids playing.
Mm-hmm. Your brother's a big gamer, right?
He's a big gamer. I would just.
Is he more empathetic than you?
I don't know. He might be. I would just want them to also try to get practice with those actions in real life.
Yeah,
as well.
I think they do translate. It's just saying that like.
Yeah, but it's like it's different if you're talking to a girl on in a game versus those butterflies in your
for
stomach
sure
or whatever.
No, for sure. Like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to.
Like when I say empathy, I think of like feeling for other people.
Yeah, right.
Not necessarily social skills.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's more of like I feel for the human cause. Like I feel for people's emotions and stuff like that. It makes them more connected emotionally. Doesn't necessarily mean you're great at talking. Like gamers are very introverted people not as of late because they're sort of a big thing. But like they've been known to be more introverted.
Right.
But again, with esports and all that stuff being more focused, they're being more out and extroverted. But I think they just, in terms of that quality of empathy, they would be able to address a need.
No, I can definitely see that.
Okay. So I had a segue, but I lost it. But I did want to get your opinion on this one piece of tech. So look up on your phone. It's called the LG Wallpaper TV.
Okay.
So basically, I'll, as you look it up, I'll start talking to you about the whole concept. But basically, LG came out with this TV. It's $8,000. Probably not something that we're going to buy anytime soon. But it is thinner than your iPhone.
Oh, wow.
And it uses magnets to mount onto a wall, so it's flush.
Okay.
And
I'm seeing it for $14,999 right now. $14,999.
Okay, so maybe it's more. But basically, yeah, it lies flush on your thing, and it's basically just like pixels on a paper. And the only reason why it's thick is because it needs to be mounted using a mount, and the mount is less than your iPhone. And then everyone's asking like, where the hell are the inputs? So what happens is there's like actually like a fat strip of wires that connect to a sound bar, and all of your inputs and outputs exist on that sound bar. But that sound bar actually has pretty solid sound. The reason why I thought that this was like super awesome is because when I went back home, and every time I go back home, I get super frustrated with my parents' entertainment system because like I try to hook them up with the latest shit. I try to be like, hey, here's an Amazon Fire TV, here's a PlayStation, here's a whatever, like stuff that they can use in retirement and enjoy media. But it's like a hassle because I have to buy like special long ass cables to put behind the TV that's mounted on the wall, and I have to be like matrix my way in the back, and it's like super annoying. But the reason why I thought this is cool is because one, you can hang it literally anywhere, and the sound bar is like away from the TV, so I can like get access to it really easily.
Right.
And I think it just looks fucking sexy.
Does it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've got mixed opinions on it. Like, my biggest thing is I don't watch TV anymore.
No, but you watch sports, and you watch Netflix and
yes,
HBO.
I consume media, but I don't consume it on a TV. So everything that I watch, and I do very little TV, but everything that I watch is on my phone or on my computer. And that's just me.
That is interesting.
So I like the idea. If something was as thin as this, obviously.
So I think here's the question: if you had the ability to cast that much easier, would you do it?
To cast it? I can cast pretty easy now.
No, like let's say like you were just in proximity to a TV and it would automatically know to go on your screen. Like if the whole experience was more facilitated to just go on a bigger screen, would you use it?
Maybe in certain situations, like if I'm watching a movie with a girl, then I guess I would like it on a bigger screen. But sometimes we'll watch it on the computer. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I don't know, like almost everything in my life is transferring to those smaller, closer devices. But yeah, like I like the bigger screen, the speakers and all that type of thing. That's cool. So I mean, I guess there's still a place for it, but I'm not like, oh man, I gotta have that.
Yeah, I can see how you're talking about it, because I mean, it is going towards more of that mobile frame, but I feel like the way that TVs are going to transition to sort of combat that is to make it much easier for connectivity and more intuitive, so that it just
Like
looks
it just
straight.
comes on.
Yeah, like, because I would love to start a video here and automatically play up there without me like clicking through a few menus.
Yeah, that would be dope.
And I think like obviously for sports and like group things you need a TV, but
Right.
individually not. But I mean, it's the same thing with my computer. Like if I could literally just be working my computer.
Exactly, and it
it's-
just comes up.
Yeah, and without any lag or latency, because like, so, you know, like it's not perfect when you use it.
Yeah, or if they made it like so big and so consuming and so light that you just couldn't ignore it. Like say I turn on my computer and then like say the TV was like as big as that wall and it just comes up there, then I'm gonna look up and I'm just typing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look up there.
Yeah, because like even this, like I would say like you use your laptop, right?
Mhm.
But you've bought peripherals to make it easier for the experience, right? Like
Right.
a bigger keyboard that
Right.
is
Right.
separate from it. So instead, what if you were able to do that via your phone being in the area, and then it goes to your screen and you can use your peripherals?
Right. I think there's a way to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what it is yet.
I don't think it's there yet.
Because
but-
even with my laptop, I thought I was going to use it more with the TV than I actually do. But then I have to plug it in, like you're saying, maybe if it just went up there. There's I don't know, there's some pathway to it. I don't know exactly what it is. Like I said, I think maybe if it was just so all consuming that I had no choice, then I would look at the TV. But how inexpensive would they have to make the TV to do that?
Oh, it's gonna be expensive as hell. We just gotta make more money, bro.
Well, I'm saying, no, I meant how inexpensive do they have to make it where everyone can have that big of a TV in their house?
True, but the thing is,
I'm probably really progressive in terms of how I use, maybe not how I use technology. I mean, people older than me are using TVs like nothing. And
well, I mean, so for the whole TV thing, there's there's a trend that we are moving to more mobile focus. But I think the challenge that they're trying to push is how can I make this easier? And that's why all these phones, like Samsung, right? They still want you to buy their TVs. So all their Samsung phones like come with docks, so you can easily push it to whatever TV is in the room.
Gotcha.
So like that's something that like a lot of my coworkers are like really excited about, because they're like, I have Samsung TV, I want to get this Note 8 or whatever, even though it might explode in my hands. But like, I think that's where things hopefully are moving to. But some other company might actually fix that, right? So we started talking about this the other time. But what if there's an interface where you could interface your neurons and it would just know
what you wanted to watch?
Know what your intentions were.
Hey, I don't know if that'd be a good thing.
So I'm talking about Elon Musk's new company. And again, that's not what the stated purpose was, but if you start hacking neurons, I feel like we could do a lot with it.
Of course.
So the whole thing about the company was talking about how you could interface basically two sets of neurons to communicate, which basically was basically able to speak without speaking.
Right.
Just know what they were meaning.
Right.
Which one would be like the most freaking awkward? Like imagine how awkward that would be in the future. You just sit in the same room like.
Yeah, you're like Professor X. You remember, like he's trying to block out everybody. You got to wear one of those metal things. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like we talked about this a little bit, but I don't know how you could transfer people's thoughts. But like maybe I was thinking maybe it's your thoughts, whatever went on in your head was translated basically, say, into a box, and that box gets the information and can then disperse it in whatever language or whatever. But you're saying straight from my head to your head, that would be strange, because like, okay, then would we forget how to talk?
Right.
Will we not know how to pronounce stuff anymore?
I don't know. That's not something that we talked about. So this initially came up with my friend, who's an engineer, and he talked about implications of like being able to, if we can interface that bad, can we change our neurons to perceive things differently? So like make healthy food taste much better, or like basically change our experience in life through the change of those and interaction of those neurons, which scared the shit out of me. Because like I see the benefit that he was foreseeing. Like again, this is beyond, I feel like, what was on that press conference. I'd have to rewatch it, but he's extrapolating. And
Right.
if it went down that path, I feel like that's super messed up. Or I feel like that there's a lot of error, or some like ways that it could be hacked and like ruin a whole population of people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we talked about this a little bit, but you go to the whole Matrix thing where we're all pretty much living in a virtual reality, and why not just destroy everybody, start anew with one or two, with however many people, if we're basically living in our brains anyway, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna do this.
Oh, sorry.
Just because I feel like your face isn't in it.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think all this stuff is interesting, but every species lasts only so long. I don't know how. Oh, is the camera off?
Yeah.
I don't know how long.
Bodies.
How long we'll make it, but there may be a time when our time is done. You know what I'm saying? So that's a real possibility.
So I guess this comes into like the whole other thing of like, how do you develop like rules and regulations to prevent to reduce the hurt along the line of everything, right? I think you brought this up with like the whole Tesla and smart driving thing.
Right.
Like it's hard to come up with a set of rules that would be consistent.
Right.
Or even ethical.
Right. I think the ethical thing is the main point, because no matter how good the rules are, there's going to be some casualties to new technology, new ways of doing things, whatever it may be. So, obviously there's some potential pitfalls for if we could communicate, or what if people could steal those signals and put all types of crazy stuff in people's heads. There's going to be some stuff, and then how do you make those rules? If it's smart cars, we talked about this, but who do you save if there were to be an accident, if you have an algorithm controlling the cars? And why do you save those people or that person? And how do you explain to the families of the victims why their families didn't get chosen? There's a lot of intricacies to it, but I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing, because we've been dealing with those type of decisions since the beginning of time, in my opinion.
I guess the reason why I'm a little bit concerned is because there's no human element at that point, right? Like,
True.
We've had to deal with these things.
True.
And like, again, we've had disruptors like the internet, and we've always opted into them despite the security risk, but there's always been some sort of human element. But as we start automating and AIs get really smart, we're starting to get away from that human element to like actually have that sanity check. Much like we're talking about with like a kid, what if that AI just interprets things the wrong way? Again, this is like Black Mirror or Dark Mirror, Black Mirror. I don't know. Like basically when tech goes wrong.
I think I don't know. I think this is cool conversation, but I think we got to be real careful, because we don't know what the problems are going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now.
For sure.
It's just like Y2K, right? It's supposed to be the biggest problem in the world, and it was nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
So my point is, like, what if the shit that we're talking about right now is not the problem? It's going to be something else that we're not even debating. Like, okay, so like obviously planes are still controlled by humans, but what if they had some sort of what do you call it? Not mission control, but what are the people who sit in the towers and make sure the planes
Traffic control.
traffic controls. Like, what if they had something like that for electric cars, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you have some sort of human element, and you see, okay, the highest probability of fatalities, because we talked about this a little bit, but there's a difference between accidents and actual fatalities. So what if the highest probability of fatalities are going to be here, 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 and here today? We're going to help guide this with our human aspect. You know, there could be all types of solutions that...
Wait, what country? Was it America? Like, you said that it was like some place calculated safety by fatality.
Oh, I said like Netherlands or something. I don't know if that's exactly what it is.
Or Sweden or something like that.
Yeah, something
it's
like
a Nordic
that.
country.
But yeah, so they basically have like the safest roads by least amount of fatalities in the world. And there's like some NPR stuff that I heard or read or something. But other cities around the world have tried to copy them, and they've done things like what we see in Boston, the traffic circles and things like that. No intersections that cross each other.
Yeah.
And it just slows people down. And you have I think you have more accidents, but less fatalities.
Interesting.
Which is the goal.
Yeah.
But when I say accidents, you're talking about fender benders.
Oh, okay. Like not that. Okay.
Yeah, like just because think about like when you're going on one of these traffic circles, people just do whatever they want. You might swipe somebody, but everybody's kind of going a decent speed, hopefully a slower speed.
Yeah.
Those type of things. So those type of questions are interesting. But my whole thing with driving, I know we didn't start with driving, but like human beings aren't good at driving. We're not good at it. So if there's anything that I think we might need to let be automated, it's driving. Like, we suck at it. And if alcohol and drugs are involved, it's even worse. So and alcohol and drugs aren't going away.
Yeah. I mean, if they start putting out that, I'll totally use that service.
I'll do it.
Any day.
I'll do it all day. I'm not scared.